and stuff you don't. It's the Ben and Bren Show.
Is it in there?
It is in there. That's what she said.
Okay.
Billy baby. Hi, Billy baby.
Billie Jean. Oh, that's right. Dogs know their name. You can't just casually say a dog's name.
How's my bucket hat look?
Really good.
Real buckety.
I decided when we were buying our own merch to wear, I got the red polo.
Yeah.
And it just says RR, right here.
And
And it's real. I feel real Republican when I'm wearing it.
Good.
It's like,
You got to take it back.
yeah, take
gotta
back the
squeeze
red.
them out.
We have to. That's right. We have to take back the red. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the color
They
red.
they can't.
Yeah.
They don't have the right.
Yeah.
Red's for passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have it.
And
so we
love.
need to take it back.
And
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the good things in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody go to rockosaurusrecords.org/store. Or just go to
Probably. Just get-
rockosaurusrecords.org. You'll see this.
I love that we've got
Get
a
you some-
.org. If we could change it to .gov, that would be great.
Rockosaurus.
Could we do .gov?
I don't
think
know
so.
how that works. I mean,
Yeah.
I do have .com because that's what
Yeah.
like the email domain is. I just I just don't know how to like connect them. 'cause it's hard.
RockosaurusRecords.gov/Go Bernie.
Deep state.
You can't mention diversity.
Yeah.
The
-DEI backsplash
Backsplash.
backsplash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Victor
Sawyer.
Hello.
hello
One and
dear
only.
Hello there.
Bro.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Ben and Bren Show.
I'm so excited. I watch this all the time. This is like one of my
Love
one
that.
of my go-to while I'm practicing, just listening to
Yes.
y'all talk.
You are one of hundreds. It's great.
Millions.
Yeah. 100 million.
Millions of
Millions.
listeners.
I think we're up to 100 million listeners now.
200 million actually.
Good.
Yeah.
But
But no, Victor, you're one of our longtime best friends.
It's crazy.
So it was only
20 years.
a matter of time.
Just about.
20 years.
It's 18.
That's
That's
2/3.
fucked up.
Yeah.
That is fucked up.
In a good way, right?
I mean, in a good way, but also in a like, how has it been that long?
Yeah.
Kind of way.
Living life.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of life has happened in those
Yeah.
20 years.
We're
seen each other go through a lot.
Ups and downs,
Of
all of it.
periods.
and
Yeah.
we're barreling towards our 40s right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Full speed.
How old are you?
I'm 37, so I'm
Same.
about 2.5 out.
Yeah.
2.5
And
out
when's
from
your
40.
birthday?
June 8th.
Yeah.
Same day.
You're going to be 38?
as Kanye West.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've always known that. Kanye West, also bipolar, and we have the same birthday.
Wow.
And
What sign is that?
I'm Gemini.
Yeah.
Also
Okay.
notable Gemini, born in June. Kendrick Lamar.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think maybe Demi Lovato or Britney Spears, who are both also bipolar.
Great.
And Kendrick. So it's weird. I believe in astrology like I believe in my Harry Potter houses, but it does seem to be a connection between the Gemini babies and bipolar disorder.
Well, what does that mean? You believe in astrology like your Harry Potter houses?
Like, do I actually believe I'm a Ravenclaw?
Yeah.
No, but I do fuck with books.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair,
And
fair.
so do I actually believe that my star sign really is affecting my life? Not necessarily, but I do often find
But it's fun and interesting.
it's fun and interesting. There are some corollaries. Yeah.
There's definitely something to the cosmos being the way it was when you were born. I get
Has
that.
to be, I think.
But the blanketness of like reading a horoscope
Yeah.
is weird.
Well,
Maybe,
all of
yeah.
the horoscopes, you could interpret them
So
just
many different ways.
about however
Right.
you want to.
It's kind of like, oh, you like cheese? That's so funny. So do
yeah,
I.
like what are the
Wow.
odds?
You know?
Yeah.
And I think more like once I actually got a co-star because I was trying to date someone who was really into astrology.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Naturally
yeah, I'll
comes
get a
up.
co-star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is such an intricate system. Like, I'm 8 different signs. Like, what does this even mean? Like, there's an ascendant.
You're actually
there's a
everybody's just all of the signs.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
some point.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stars aren't in the same position as they were thousands of years ago. They move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
die.
or die.
I've been reading a lot of Richard Dawkins lately.
He's my
Do you know-
guy. The God Delusion. Have you checked it out?
God, yes.
That book. I became agnostic for a long time because of that book.
Yeah.
And then I just got spiritual again
Okay.
pretty recently.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You need to read it. God
Yeah.
Delusion. I mean, but spiritual and Christian
Exactly.
different thing.
If
Yeah.
if a Christian asks me, "Do you accept the Lord?" or like, if a Christian asks me if I'm Christian, I say I was raised culturally Christian.
Right.
So for all intent and purposes, probably the way I engage with my spirituality looks remarkably similar to what you do.
Yeah.
But I don't 100%. Like when I'm eating the crackers and juice,
Right.
I don't think that's actually body and blood.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just from Costco.
Yeah. Low, cheap wine.
Yeah.
The
right.
cheap stuff. Boxed.
I've been to the ends of the universe, like on psychedelics. So that has made me who am I to say there's nothing?
That I was
You know?
never comfortable saying that I'm an atheist, because saying I'm an atheist, even after reading Richard Dawkins
Yeah.
and Sam Harris, because to me saying I'm an atheist is too certain.
It's almost the
It's
same
kind-
thing as being
Yeah.
religious.
It's kind of arrogant, actually.
Yeah, I was
you
just
know?
like, I don't know. And to me, agnostic felt right for a long time, where it's like, could be, could not be.
Yeah.
Great stories in a bunch of pantheons. I'm just going to try to be a dope dude. When I mess up, get better. Could be real, could not be real, but I'm just trying to live a good life.
I think that
I agree.
organized religion has done so much more harm than good in the history of humanity. I mean, anybody can debate me on that, but I mean, it's true. As a queer person, I can say that. As someone that looks at a person of color, I can say that. If I look at wars,
It's a tool of control.
yeah, like
It's
it's
a tool
all
of
that's
control.
all what it stems back to is the hatred from that. So
Especially when you just read the original story of Jesus. It's like, I love the quotes when people say, like, I don't think anyone's actually read this book.
yeah,
Because if you actually read the book, you're like,
this is terrible. Yeah,
yeah, like, a lot of bad shit happened.
Yeah.
Also, Jesus was pretty clear about like not hoarding wealth,
Yeah.
helping sick people.
Yeah.
So whenever I hear people talk about like Christian values, I'm like, I don't think most people have read this book. Because
No.
if you did, one, you probably wouldn't be about the religion of
Yeah.
Christianity, and you would live radically different.
and the indoctrination of it is so easy to see across, cultural lines. It's like, I mean, Richard Dawkins says in The God Delusion, it's like, if you weren't born a Christian, if your parents didn't choose to take you to this religious institution, you might be a Hindi, you might be, a Buddhist, you may not have a religion. So it's like, people are so convinced that in Christianity, at least, that there is one true God, and not we, I don't ascribe to that, but that they're right. And it's like, how arrogant is that? Same as an atheist being like, nah, there's nothing happens. It's like, well, we discover new things over just the last 100 years, humanity has increased technologically 1,000-fold.
Yeah.
So
Even
Yeah.
as a person who loves science, I mean, it's hard to be an atheist because, I'm big into Marvel and all that stuff. And one of the in-universe explanations is there could be an understanding of the scientific universe that's just at such a high level that it looks like heaven
Yeah.
or it looks like hell. It could be another dimension, like multidimensional theory is a real theory, right?
Yeah.
We live in the fourth dimension. We can observe the third dimension,
Yeah.
but we live in the fourth dimension, which theoretically suggests that there are yet higher dimensions. Because so if we lived in the fifth dimension, we would then have another axis of existence of time.
yeah.
So we can feel the effects of time because we can observe things living and dying, but we can't manipulate it. So we can manipulate distance, space, and we can feel time. But if we could somehow get to the fifth dimension, we could then move through time just like we move through space.
Yeah.
So it's a theory, of course, because how the fuck we gonna know?
Well, I always get super weirded out anytime deja vu happens.
Same.
That is the weirdest thing.
It's got to be something, right?
It is. I literally can see it happening as a millisecond before something happens. I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I've seen that here before. I've been.
It's dreams
and then
for
it's
me.
gone. Yeah, that's the weirdest thing.
I've had dreams like that where
Yeah.
I'll have a dream and it won't mean anything. It's just a dream. And then days, years later,
Yeah.
I'll be in the
That
situation
thing.
of the dream and
Yeah.
I'll recognize it. And I was like, I remember this dream.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I hope the dinosaurs don't enter and kill me now. And usually it's like, okay.
Also, like I've done in the past, I've done a bunch of DMT
have
before. Yeah, and it's wild. And everybody describes the same realm. It's not like, oh, I had this acid trip. Oh, what did you see? Oh, what did you see? What did you see? Everybody describes generally the same realm. These figures that are sort of cloaked that you can't really make out faces, but you can feel what they're giving to you, like if you're welcome or not. Same thing with sleep paralysis. Anybody know anybody with sleep paralysis?
I've had some experiences with it just because some of the symptoms of bipolar disorder involve lucid dreaming and other sleep-related things. Worst feeling more than any other feeling. Have you ever had a moment of had it?
I've never had it. I've never experienced it.
It's awful.
But I know like Amber has, and then my friend Dennis does it a lot.
Really?
And everybody describes the same feeling. There's a documentary called Nightmare you should watch.
Okay.
Or maybe not because it's kind of scary. But everybody describes the same feeling, like that sleep paralysis is where your brain is awake, but your body can't move.
Yeah.
You can still process things, but you just can't. Yeah. And everybody describes the fucking Slender Man, like guy thing in the corner or whatever of the room. It's freaky.
It's
so
terrifying.
It's like those little things that all connect us in certain ways. People have these different abilities, or whatever you want to call them or label them as, is pretty fucking
the dream realm, the other realms, the higher realms that we just can't observe.
I was gonna say humans have a very limited degree of observation. Like even things that we do or have the ability to measure, like hearing, the human ear can only pick up 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz.
Yeah.
Sound goes far beyond that. Like dogs, for example, can hear far beyond the human hearing range. Light, like if you look at a light spectral graph, it's a very small sliver of rays, of light ray that humans can observe. Like there's like gamma rays, all of that. Like it's a massive spectrum of motion that exists, but humans have such a sliver of observational capability. Right. And so there's so much more that exists that humans have awareness of. Like all of this, what we're talking about. So I finished, I'm going to bring up my, every episode I have to now at least quote something from a Yuval Harari book.
we love him.
I just finished the 21
Lessons for 21st Century.
Just finished that.
Lessons for 21 Savage. You
Yeah.
finished that book. 21.
Yeah, exactly.
21.
Great book.
But he so one, everything we're talking about, like humans just think they're way smarter than we actually are. Like we are a very primitive species, but we're also a fascinating species and a very dynamic species. Not to totally sell us short, but we were talking about this yesterday. The thing that has made Homo sapiens different from every other animal species, including other human species, is we have the ability to work together on a very large scale. Like human beings can collaborate on a very large scale without knowing each other. Like dogs don't have that capability. And so we've been able to do what we've done because we can work together on a large scale. And the binding factor of all of that is stories. Stories are the binding factors for human collaboration, religion, whatever. All of these things, it's like, and this is sort of a recent revelation I've had with it, is people, they might believe these things, but deep down, I think our biological relationship with it is like, it doesn't even really matter if we believe these things or not. It's almost like this is how we operate in order to be able to work together on a large scale. He makes a point in the book. He's like, if you want real power and influence as a human being, you have to have a degree of story. If you're going for absolute truth, objective truth, you're not going to be able to really have a large capability of control and influence, and that thus religion and all of that comes into the equation. Is like, that is how, as fucked up of all of it is and as complicated as all of it is, that is how we've gotten to where we are, is through story.
Sharing stories. I remember that part of the book. It's been a while since I listened to it, but
Which is so crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I used to be really into mythologies, Greek mythology in particular. And one of the fascinating things is, of course, I think going back to limited perspective of human beings, we tend to frame our understanding of other cultures, whether cultures from the past or cultures separated by region, we tend to frame it by our own perspective and values. And I think one of the fascinating things going to stories is that when we look at other religions like Buddhism, Shintoism, but in particular like Greek mythology and Norse mythology, we look at those stories as if they're the Christianity of the Greeks. But if you actually look at what these Greek philosophers said, their Greek myths and things like that were not only parables for how to live a life, but they were actually the science of the time. Like that religion, their religion was very much like, oh, this is how we understand the world. Like
they didn't know how lightning works, so it was Thor.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's always the answer.
Exactly. Yeah, they didn't know why the sun came up and down every night. It must be Apollo, and then his sister Artemis brings the moon. Like it wasn't. It was integrated into their life in a way that we try to put it in the Christian lens. And it's like, nah, they weren't really thinking about it that way.
Anything that can't be explained by science, we default it. It's God.
Gotta be God.
Yeah. And that's how it's always been.
Dude, one thing that makes me mad, once again going back to the difference between Christianity and Christians, one thing that really pisses me off is clearly people just also don't read history, because a cursory glance at history would show you that Christianity is just a mutt religion. It's literally just a religion made up of bits and pieces from dozens of other religions that came before. And it frustrates me. It wouldn't frustrate. That's not the frustrating part. The frustrating part is, how do you then take this thing that is clearly an amalgam of other things and then get rid of those other things and then use it as a system of control? I don't actually have a problem with Christianity per se. I just have a problem with the way it's wielded.
I totally agree. And I have many friends who are some very close friends that are deeply religious, deeply Christian. And we've had these intense debates before. And I just keep always coming back and trying to remind the person, like, the Bible was not, I was taught in church that the Bible was written by God. Like, it was God's word, but like, it was like, yeah, but he wrote it, you know?
Yeah.
And then
get on board.
And then you and then you deconstruct that. I'm like, he who? How do you know that he's a he? You know? And then also I just remind them too. I'm like, you do realize the books of the Bible are named after the men that wrote them.
Right. It's like
the men. How shitty are men today? Let's go back 2,000 years ago. Probably shittier. I don't know. Barbaric even, maybe.
The fact that there are editions of the Bible is proof that clearly this like powerful dude did not write it. There wouldn't be versions of it if it was written by this one guy. And if it was written by God and then some dude was just like, I don't like that part, then like that, don't trust that dude. Fuck that dude. Like,
and all the books that are too fucked up to be in the Bible now. They've had to be taken out
They've taken
over the
them out.
course of the millennia.
Yeah.
Because they were like,
Yeah.
this might fuck up our tithing
Yeah.
tithing membership.
I love a quote that actually Alex Kramer turned me on to from
Okay.
Epicurus,
Okay.
the philosopher. He said, is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God?
Yeah.
And then he gave me a bumper sticker that says, how's my driving? How does an engine even work? Why would a loving God cause so much agony? I love it. I haven't put it on my truck yet, but yeah.
I think that's one reason I've always liked the Greek myths and like the Hindu myths and things like that is their gods were people. And I like that they were fallible. Like I like that Zeus is an adulterer, right?
Yeah.
He's this all-powerful situation, but he's also kind of a shitty dude.
They at least owned it.
Yeah, they owned it. Like I think that Christianity, it's like we are made in God's image, but the Greeks and other religious groups, they made the gods in their image because that accounts for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, why did this rainstorm just wash away my village? Because Poseidon's a petty bitch. That's why this rainstorm just did that.
Relatability sells.
Yeah.
It does. It's a more intriguing story.
Stronger marketing approach.
For sure.
I've had like, intense debates with my mom too, which I mean, my mom is what I would say a harmless Christian. Like she's a good person. Like she goes to
Christine.
church. That's her social hour. She's not like Bible thumping on people or judging people, But this was years and years ago, but I had finally sort of come to my senses about after all of my indoctrination and stuff in church. And I asked her, I was like, do you believe that a man lived inside of a whale? Like,
Duh.
Bold question. What is she?
and she was sort of confused. Like, I can't remember exactly what. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening, I'm ratting you out on this. I love you. But yeah, it was just, that was the first time that I think she had been confronted with those questions of herself instead of just blindly following religion, which is what most people do. Like, you're taught not
That's
to
what you're
question it.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course.
part
Which
of
is-
religion.
Also indicative of,
Control.
are you in a cult?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, going back to what you were talking about with spirituality, the big difference between religion and spirituality is religion you're taught not to question.
Yeah.
Religion is you don't question. This is what it is. Don't ask why. Spirituality is rooted around questioning.
Yeah.
Like, why does XYZ work this way or exist? And it's that openness. It's that like being open to the spiritual realm or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Whereas like religion is sort of the opposite. It's like you don't question.
This is the way it is.
This
Yeah.
is the criteria of which you go off. This is the document, and you don't question that.
Also,
this is what it is.
I would argue that spirituality is not an organized thing and doesn't cost money.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the
Religion
universe
does.
is free.
Yeah.
The universe
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
free.
It's the only free thing.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
mean,
ki-
unless you want to factor in yoga and retreats and
Yeah.
buy this book as spirituality. Yes, there is a little bit of capitalism in it. Yes, but to be in the
unavoidable.
organized, to see God in the organized religion club, it takes money.
It takes money. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I pray every day now. Like
Yeah.
I do this. I love the serenity prayer, accept the things.
Sure.
Was it God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage change the
I
things
have a
can,
coin with it on there
and the
from when I was in
wisdom.
rehab. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a great quote, and I wear this little ring. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm
Yeah.
really into. So Star Wars is actually what led me back to spirituality, and it just says "May the Force be with you" because I was watching that Ahsoka show. Which is one of the newer Disney Star Wars shows. And the cool thing about it and what I like about the Star Wars version of Buddhism, because that's what it is. Like basically the Jedi religion and the Sith and all that stuff, it's heavily based on a lot of Eastern thought, the duality and all that stuff. But really it talks about how the Force is really just this neutral thing. And I thought that attracted me to it right off the bat, because to your point, like with God, is God good or bad? And I was just like, I don't know, man. Looking at how crazy and awesome the universe is, if there is a God, he's probably neutral. It's probably
good,
neutral.
bad is a human evolution determination.
And that's what drew me to Star Wars, is like in this Ahsoka show in particular. And then you look at all these characters, it's like, hey, we're all tapped into the Force. We're all tapped into the universe. Whether you believe in it or not, you're connected to it.
Yeah.
And it's how we interpret and use our connection that actually determines the good or evil aspect of it. But like, I love praying every day. Like, that shit makes me feel tapped in. Like, I wake up, go outside anywhere and do it. And I feel tapped in a way that when I used to do when I was a kid at church, I just felt like I was kind of going through the motions.
Exactly.
I don't think I really believed it. And I honestly just don't even think I had lived enough life to even form an opinion about whether I believe this or not.
For sure. 100%.
And so I believe it now more. I was a freelance musician at church one day, and the sermon, while we were waiting to play the next song, it was all about this story of this a mother and her two daughters wandering through the desert, and they kept praying to get saved or whatever, and God kept sending people to save them, and they were like, no, no, no. And finally they get to the village, they're hurt, they're dying, and God's like, well, why didn't you accept all this help I sent you? And it was a moment where I was like, and the pastor, he said this beautiful quote I've never forgotten, and it really opened the door back to spirituality. He said, never refuse the gift because of the package.
Yeah.
And for me, that's opened up the world of religion, where I'm like, yo, is it Taoism? I'm in. Is it Christianity? I'm in. Is it Judaism? I'm in. If there's a gift or a lesson to be had in the message, I don't really care about the wrapping paper, unless your wrapping paper is racism. Then I do care about that. But like, once again, that's people perverting.
It's the people.
It's people perverting this thing. It's not the thing.
Yeah. It's a fascinating topic for me. I actually am about to start reading the Bible, because I've
Cover to cover,
I've
end to end?
spent my entire childhood and all through my teenage years in church. So I've heard enough of it, but I've never read it. Yeah.
It's kind of a hard read, because it's kind of like same thing as like Shakespeare.
Well,
it's a lot of just like
The Old English.
yeah,
you
it's
got to
like,
get the there's the New International Version. It's a little more plain English. Yeah.
The J.K. Rowling
get that
edition.
proper interpretation.
I had the CD-ROM. So when desktop computers
Nice.
dropped,
Bible on CD.
they had there was you can get Encarta, the encyclopedia, but there was also a Bible CD-ROM, and my parents got it for me, and I used to watch on there the Bible stories.
I carry around a little tiny miniature Magna Carta around for me.
Do you really?
That's just personally. No.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm going to start reading the Bible and see
I mean,
how
it's
that goes.
usually
That's gonna be a
Just
lot.
for study's sake, I'm very interested in theism, like just as a thing. That
I
has
mean,
been
it's
a part of-
arguably one of the greatest pieces of literature ever, just by the sheer effect
It's a bestseller.
that it's that it's had on
Number one
human
bestseller.
beings.
To like and
It's-
subscribe if you like these messages.
Yeah, like it's the ultimate like and subscribe.
Yeah.
It's the
Like,
ultimate like.
it is the ultimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's something of worth.
But going to the programming, I just found this out. So, obviously a lot of Christians use religion and the Bible to be homophobic, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea until pretty recently that the story of Sodom and Gomorrah was actually not about
Sodomy.
people having gay sex.
Yeah.
It was actually about people hoarding wealth and
Yep.
treating the poor poorly.
Yep.
That's why God destroyed it.
Yeah.
And
But
it's-
continue.
no,
sorry.
you go, because I think you got it.
No, but they spun that story.
Yeah, they were like,
hard.
we don't like that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because
like this part.
Sodom goes
Right.
with sodomy,
Right.
that's where they took it.
It's so crazy that that happened, I mean, even the idea of the Bible, like, man, nothing frustrates a hardcore, perverted Christian is when they're just like, so many people are Christian. How can you not be Christian? I'm like, you do know it's not the number one religion, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
do know
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
two other religions.
Yeah.
No, 3 other religions that people believe way more. There's Buddhism,
Hinduism.
and of course Islam.
Yeah.
So it's the
Islam's
Yeah.
it's the 4th best.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you depending on your perspective, people just think oh, Christianity is the one. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
I was a logical kid. And the shit just never made sense. The organized religion part,
Yeah.
it just didn't. Too many conflicting narratives. It's just like it just doesn't make sense the way that it's presented. It's
Yeah.
too mysterious. It's too knowing. Like God is God, the universe, the force, the
Whatever
way,
you wanna
as they
call
call
it.
it,
Yeah.
the logos in Stoicism. It's way beyond our limited
Oh.
perspective.
Incomprehensibly so.
Yeah,
And Christians too are taught. I've argued this with some of my friends before too. It's like, well, they look at Islam like, ooh, that's what the terrorists follow, you know, or
Yeah,
something like that. I'm
yeah.
like, Islam is just as beautiful and tragic as Christianity. It has. They all have the same tenets, pretty much.
Yeah, they're
Except
not
for
really-
the 72 virgins thing. I'm like, how old are those virgins? Are in your mind?
a little weird.
Are we thinking that they're young kids, like
Yeah.
younger people?
course.
Or also, why do you want a virgin? Like, don't you want something with a little more experience?
Yeah, this obsession with
Just saying.
purity or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I
Like-
think to me, the obsession with purity and the obsession with absolutes, because in the natural universe, like the natural world, there are rarely, if ever, any absolutes. There are rarely, if any, true binaries. And also, nothing's pure. Everything's connected. So, like, the idea of purity and binaries is just, like, really weird. But, like, yeah, I mean, Islam, another beautiful belief system that's been tainted by certain groups of people from the group, you know?
Yeah.
Because you meet, I mean, like, seeing what's happening in the Middle East, what has been happening, to wake up and still have a zest for life, given everything that's happened, that's a deep level of love and humility and understanding that most Americans do not have. I could not imagine waking up. I know there's a Palestinian singer in Memphis who I know, beautiful soul, Raneem, and she always is positive, always sings positively. And I'm like, I could not imagine knowing what's happening, being connected to what's happening, and still get radiating that much positivity.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's crazy to me. That the composer Steve Reich has a suite or a project called, is it called Daniel Pearl or something like that? Daniel Pearl was basically a journalist, American journalist. I'm very much paraphrasing and probably missing a few things, but went to the Middle East to do journalism and was killed by terrorists. And his parents founded a organization that was basically like a cross-cultural understanding sort of charity, not profit kind of thing. It's like that takes a crazy amount of compassion and empathy and understanding and all of that.
Yeah.
That's why the stories are so important, though. The parables, because you can see. So, all right. So when I got into the Star Wars shit, I bought some pseudo-religious books. One's the Book of the Sith, one's the Jedi Code, and one's the Bounty Hunter's Code or something. And reading the Book of the Sith, it shows you, basically, it's fictionally written by Palpatine, and you see how people pervert the Force, how they use it for evil. And then the Jedi book is like, actually, this is the way you should live if you want to orient yourself on the side of good. And I just think, like, that's what it comes down to, is like, we're all going to go through life. Life is more or less the same for almost everybody, yet also remarkably unique for everybody. But it's really the choices that we make that are going to affect what life is like. And like, was that a good man? Am I living a good life? That, for me, that's the big test. If I wake up and I'm like, I think I lived well today. Cool. Great.
Yeah.
And most religions are just like, yeah, you should just live well.
Yeah.
And not fuck other people over.
Totally. What's crazy too about the different religions, it's so this is also in the book because Yuval Harari, this author is Israeli. Judaism is such a small religion compared to these other religions.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
There's only 14 million Jews in the world.
Like compared to billions of these other religions. It's so it's wild to me.
It's
And they don't
wild
have a
to
hell.
think about.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's wild to think about how there's only like 14 million Jews.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how small of a religion it
And then
is.
how much they control everything. I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, so I was this
Don't cut that. I'm joking.
this is actually one of the things I wanted to talk about. I've been thinking about recently. And I don't, when I'm about to say like the Palestine-Israel war, that's a different thing than what I'm talking about. We have to put that to the sideline. But it's crazy how much shit the Jewish people get flack for over the centuries.
Yeah.
Like it is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, like, what's your problem, man? Like, what's the problem with people?
As soon as like life gets hard, it's the Jewish people's fault.
Yeah, it's so
Every
weird.
time.
It's super weird, dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And right now, and it's always the worst people that spread this message. Right now, it's like who hates the Jewish people? Dan Bilzerian, Kanye West.
Yeah.
It's like
Elon Musk.
like the worst
Always
people.
Yeah.
Are Hitler. Like
Who was the first guy you mentioned?
Dan Bilzerian.
You don't know who that
he
dude
was
is?
Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate was Andrew Tate.
Oh, okay.
He's like
He's
the
an
dude that like
ex-military
popped
dude.
off on Instagram because he
Yeah.
always had like 100 girls with him. His dad, he's like a trust fund kid.
But like also an ex-Marine, Special Forces, but maybe that
But
turned out
not
to be
even like he
false.
tried to be a Navy SEAL, but
Yeah.
he couldn't do it. Like
because he got all these
he's a
rage
total
issues.
piece of shit. All of these people are absolute pieces.
I wish we could put Lexapro
trash.
in the water. Yeah. You
Well,
know.
it's like it's that to your point. It's such an interesting time right now because one, what's happening to the Palestinian people is obviously an atrocity, right? But it's weird because I also grew up in a community of a lot of Jewish people. My high school just happened to have a large community of Jewish people. And I used to get really pissed off. Nothing pisses me off more. Well, a lot of things piss me off. But Holocaust deniers can go fuck right
Straight
off.
up.
Like,
And it's
go fuck
It's
off.
on
Like,
a huge resurgence right now.
how
Yeah.
can you deny just the oppression of these people? But the only reason I bring up this other thing is it does then get weird for me in this current moment. Nothing's weirder to me than oppressed people at some point choosing to then become the oppressor in other regards. But throughout human history, you see that. Even like in the black community, it's like you see it in capitalism where like black people gained freedom and like got economic power, but then ultimately often choose to just recreate the exact same oppressive mechanisms of white Christian capitalism. It's like, what are you doing? But it's like pretty well known. And so it's like, man, just like, I hate seeing the name like Jewish people getting used once again for political gain one way or the other. And it's just like, it's just such a mind-bogglingly frustrating time to be alive because I just think everyone deserves a shot at a happy life.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the thing
And no one
between-
deserves to be lumped together either.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is the Israel-Palestine conflict. That has nothing to do. I mean, sure, it's like you were saying, it's wrapped in the Jewish Islam thing, but that's a state issue. That's not necessarily a religious issue.
And
That is
people are
the
attaching
state.
their racism and
Exactly.
attaching their hate and using these words to further their little bullshit agenda.
Yeah.
But this is like literally just some capitalistic fuckfaces.
Yeah, it's government.
Yeah, it's these two governments and they're like in some of their people. But once again, they are then saying, okay, but I'm going to use these people who are racist against the Jews, or I'm going to use these people who are racist against Palestinians, and I'm going to use them to further my economic goals.
It's the story that bands everybody together. That's how it functions.
And the UK just declaring that Palestine was, it's whatever they did to the areas after World War II, declaring that land there. So
They
it
stayed
started
quiet.
the
They were
conflict.
smart. They've been smart in this whole thing. They have not been putting their name out there. People are just kind of forgetting that they kind of laid the seed for this entire
Yeah.
situation.
Have you I love studying the Bill Wirtz video, The History of the World, the YouTube video.
Oh yeah, where he draws.
Yeah, it's just like very
think I've
quick
seen that.
world history. You've never seen it?
Have you not?
20 minutes of human history and like with like
know.
jazz chords and like
You would love it.
weird
Interesting,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh my god,
Sounds up
yeah,
my alley.
yeah.
It's for you.
Oh, we're turning that on next. Yeah.
Japan's the same way. Japan right now is like the same way where like in America at least large amounts of Asian racism, of course, in the United States. Historically, there's always been a lot. Just visited the Japanese Cultural Community Center. But what's interesting is Japan had this sort of kawaii, which means cute in Japanese, where they really did a great rehab of their image. Because even though I love Bushido, samurai culture, I like the history of Japan, when I got into the history of Japan, I was like, yo, ancient Japan it was a murderous state for a while. It was the terror.
Very barbaric.
It was the terror of the Pacific region. It's like
Shogun.
You think China is just this big place that's not how could this tiny little island nation? And it's like, oh my God, Japan did some terrible, terrible, awful things. But to your point, if you can spin that story, people will just forget about it. And it's like, hey, but I love Dragon Ball Z, so yay, Japan.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Asian cultures, Mom and I went a couple years ago we finally came around to it and watched the Shenyun.
Oh, how was it?
Oh, is that the posters we see everywhere?
It's marketing
Budget.
The number one
out
marketing.
The ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw it in Florida. It was pretty good. It was good. It was good. It was a really
Good enough.
Yeah. But do you know about them?
I don't know about them.
It's a cult.
Is it? Is it like the dance people?
They are in a cult. It's based out of New York City. It's not based out of China. They're the opposition party to communist China. They are speaking out against that, which yes, is good, you could argue. But the owner or the leader of it has gotten into all kinds of trouble. They of course barely pay them. All of their wages pretty much funnel back into the organization. That's why they have this huge marketing budget. You should read up on it. It's crazy. I'll never support it again because I was like, yeah, because I was like, ooh. And then at the end of the concert or whatever, or even in an intermission, there's a step and repeat wall with their logo on it, and they have cameras, and they're like, what did you think? Do you mind to interview? Tell us your thoughts on the show. And they're getting everybody's positive feedback. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's just ooh, this is weird.
I got to look that up.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a cult.
It's a cult.
There's just so many cults.
Oh, it's the classic.
MAGA is a cult.
It's the classic way of, control. I mean, you could argue.
Am I in a cult?
You're probably in a
Psychedelics.
cult.
Maybe you're just
deranged.
You're close.
Or the byproduct of being a human being. There's no way to not get involved in a cult.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
We're in a jazz cult.
Yeah, I think the marker of a cult is try to leave and then you'll know.
Yeah.
you're in a cult.
Yeah.
That's the test.
Totally.
Try to leave or say no to something. Hey, we really want everybody to shave their head. I actually like my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the demonic look, you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Try to see how hard it is to leave, and then you'll discover if you're in a cult or not.
Yeah. There's too many really shitty people out there right now. The people with loud voices right now are absolute pieces of trash. I cannot express my hatred enough of Kanye West.
Yeah.
I used to love that dude.
I did. Everybody
used to
did.
love him.
Dude,
He was a hero to me. He was literally a hero.
Yeah.
Dude.
Bipolar, weirdo black kid who does music. And we got the same birthday. I loved that dude.
Yeah. Dude, he
now-
is a absolute piece of shit.
And an anti-Semite.
Dude,
Yeah.
Just
all of it.
Just so disturbing that just such an anti-Semite. And it's just once again, you are using your negative experience of a few people who happen to be Jewish, and you're making this terrible, broad sweeping Nazi generalization.
Yeah, and what really pisses me off about Kanye and people like that is also horrendous father. I don't have to ever have met that dude to see that dude is a terrible
Him and Elon.
father.
Yeah.
Awful parents.
Bad dads.
And what's so is they play the victim card so hard.
I'm canceled. You're a billionaire. Shut the
it's
fuck up.
I none of this happened without my consent, talking about seeing his kids and shit. It's You agree. Nobody can make you do anything if you don't sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
You signed on the fucking dotted line.
Yeah.
And you going out and being a complete piece of garbage and spreading hatred like this, what do you think it's going to do with your with the relationship of your kids and being able to see your kids?
Yeah.
It's like you're a fucking idiot, piece of trash human being. And his following, we were talking about this yesterday. It's like, one, it's bad, that this individual, but you go on his Twitter replies of all of these people,
They're in,
agreeing with him.
They're locked
and
in.
Just this huge
Talking about Elon.
and
Kanye.
Kanye.
Yeah.
Kanye.
All of these people, like the big three:
Yeah.
Trump, Elon,
Kanye, Andrew
Bezos.
Tate,
Wild.
all of these people.
But
are-
also, you do have to remember on that platform that Elon, the megalomaniac that he is definitely amplifying those voices.
But
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah,
100%. But that ties into what I'm saying. But you can just go directly to Kanye's Twitter page and just read the shit he's saying. Dude, that dude is the devil.
Yeah.
Like, that dude is the closest thing to the devil that we have.
And you
Like,
get caught up in these weird things, once again, going back to people using stories to amplify their bullshit, where you'll see a comment under a Kanye thing. It's like, they just love to tear a black man down. And it's like, yes, that is a thing that has happened and still happens. This is not that. This dude is actually just a shitty dude. Like, saying some very awful stuff. I mean, like, to me, Elon is the scariest of those big three.
Yeah.
Because you can be shitty and loud, Trump, Kanye. But then you can be shitty, loud, and
rich.
And
rich,
yeah.
and have the savvy. You know, I always disagree when people say, oh my God, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they're so stupid. I was like, no, they're just not smart in the way that people associate them with, but they're smart in a way that's terrifying.
Yeah.
They're smart in the fact that they can manipulate a narrative
Yeah.
and maneuver themselves into these insane positions of power.
Yeah.
Insane positions of power. Like, they're smart in the scariest kind of Machiavellian way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who are vulnerable enough to follow them are unfortunately uneducated to the point where they are so delusional in thinking that they are a representation of what I can maybe become.
Yeah.
And it will never happen.
It's never going to happen.
It
No.
will never happen even if you were really smart sometimes, because, I mean, some of the world's billionaires aren't the brightest people. They had a great idea that turned into this and that provided them the capital to get this and to get that. It's part luck. You know?
It's to be a figure like that. What it means to be a CEO, the one skill that you have to run a company, you don't have to know how to do a goddamn thing. What you have to know how to do is pay people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you have to know how to do. You have to know how to have the capital to hire bright minds, because that is who are building Tesla cars. That's who's building SpaceX rocket ships.
Yeah.
That's who's that's who's building Trump Towers or whatever.
Yeah.
These people aren't artisans. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, you can make some argument. Maybe Elon has some sort of engineering smarts, but that's not the main driver. The main, or Bezos, what they know how to do is get money to pay people, because people want to make a good living, and people that are skilled at certain skilled labor, they aren't necessarily of interest in going that route at starting a company. They want to do what they want to do, and they want to be paid. If they are good at it, they want to be paid well. And that's what these people know how to do, is to gather enough money for good people to work for them.
Yeah.
That's what they know how to do.
They're good at running businesses. They're good at maneuvering. They're good at putting people in situations where it's like, if you go against me, I've now manipulated you into a position where you're going to sacrifice your comfort. I mean, like the story of America, one of the tragic things about America is that people are so comfortable. It's just not a revolutionary country. Most Americans are not willing to sacrifice comfort for what it would actually take to dismantle the current capitalist system, because
100%.
it means you might lose your job, and that means you're going to lose your health care. And that means when you get sick, you're just going to hurt. Those medicines, like, so I take Seroquel, right? And there was one when I was working a full-time job and had coverage. I'll never forget this. There was one winter break where we were shifting policies. The company was going to shift policies, and I was running out. I just sort of lost track of my pills or whatever. It cost $9 a bottle for like a month, 2 month supply, right? And then I was like, well, I really need my meds. Can you just tell me how much it'll cost out of pocket? And the nurse looked at me at CVS. It was like, I don't think you want to know. And I was like, well, how much? She was like, the one bottle for a month's supply is $230 for a month's supply of these pills that ultimately kind of make it possible for me to not be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And it's just like, okay, well, I can't lose this job.
My HIV medication without insurance, which if I didn't take, I would eventually die from AIDS, are over $2,000 a bottle.
Jesus. For how long of a, like, how long would that bottle last?
30 days. Yeah.
Just $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Insane.
And nobody pays that, but
Of
like
course.
that's the retail cost. Like if I didn't have insurance, there's still like or even if you do have insurance, sometimes it doesn't cover all of it. And then you get in their little stipend program that the pharmaceutical companies will have. It's all just fucking what?
Insurance and big pharma
Scam.
is like the biggest racketeering.
Yeah.
They don't provide health care.
No.
No, they are
want you to
such
be
a
sick.
racket.
They need you to be sick.
Yeah.
To survive. Yeah, that's how they survive. Going back to what you were saying hitting on something. I'm so sick of this narrative that we were sold as kids and continue to be by the right, that America is the greatest country on earth.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, economically we may be a powerhouse, but look at our reading and math and science scores. Look at the
And it's getting worse.
infant mortality rate.
Way worse.
Look at like all of these different markers of a healthy and safe society. No. Many countries way better, way ahead of us.
Way
you know?
happier.
Way happier.
Way more content.
Way less worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
not.
what frustrates me about America is it could be the greatest country in the earth.
Yeah.
It literally could be
Yeah.
if we just got the corruption a little, dial it down a little bit. Dial down the corruption, because really the corruption and trying to get money at all costs, like what does Donald Trump actually believe? I have no idea what that dude actually believes. But what he does know is that there's a certain sector of America that hates black people.
Yeah.
And if he can manipulate them and get them on the team, then he's going to get them to vote for him. And then he can get into a position where he can maximize his profit. You know what I mean? And I just like, it's those little things where I was like, it could be the greatest country on the earth.
Yeah.
Like the gold medals we get at the Olympics, love that.
Yeah.
I mean, like one thing that I've been really grappling with internally as an American, I would say I am proud to be from this country for the things that I like about this country. I'm a jazz musician.
Right.
I love the art and culture. I love how beautiful this country is.
Right.
Like, and as an American, if you're American, every American is privileged on a global stage for this one reason. I think about this all the time. Let me ask y'all a question. Have you ever in your life ever actually been worried about being bombed by a foreign country?
No.
Never. That is the clearest marker of American privilege. We all have it. The mere fact that to be American means you are rarely, if ever, worried about a threat from a foreign power, because every other country has that. And we're seeing that right now. Even European countries are feeling that. They're like, oh, wait, at the drop of a hat, another country can do this. And so it's like weird to be an American because the defense budget is obviously too high, right?
Astronomical.
But unfortunately, we've kicked the global hornet's nest so much that you're like, well, now we kind of have to have a big military, because if we loosen the reins at all, we might get some retribution.
It's understandable.
But maybe not. But maybe not. Maybe we're just projecting our own American fuck everyone else mentality. And most people, if we just chilled, would also chill.
Yeah.
We're like the drunk dude at the bar. Like, dude, nobody's trying to fight you.
Yeah.
No one's trying to fight you.
Yeah.
We just need you to pay your tab and leave.
I have thought about though, like if like North Korea or Russia, whoever sends a nuke, we're probably gonna be the ones that get hit. LA, like either LA or New York. Like we're gonna be in the place
I mean, I hope
do get blown up.
Pretty sure that we have the technology to shoot that nuke out of the sky, but
Well, that is the thing. I have. I was reading about this a little bit. It's like the Iron Dome sort of technology is really great, but like supersonic defense is actually pretty non-existent.
Minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Or
tried.
not necessarily non-existent. It's not super functionally reliable.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
it's
the Star
not
Wars
a-
system is actually what it's called. That's the system that we came up with called Star Wars. I think it expanded under Bush to shoot down any ICBs or intercontinental ballistic missiles.
I was hitting balls the other day, and I almost sent you a video of me going, terrorism is awful, and we must handle it. Now watch this drive.
Well, have you seen that George Bush clip?
Yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah.
I know, it was past the point. I was like, oh,
That is like the most American
Yeah.
clip, like of all time.
But going back to education, bro, it's so wild. Like when you talk about nukes, like one, people don't understand how many nukes the United States have. We have thousands.
Oh, it's
or like I think it's like 1,300.
and the ones we have make like Hiroshima look like little fucking like pebbles like thrown in. Like the ones now that exist are absolutely massively
World-ending.
destructive.
Yeah, world ending for sure. I mean, it's like, well, once again, that's the cognitive dissonance of being an American is like, whenever I hear people be like, we can't let Iran get a nuke, we can't let North Korea get a nuke, I'm like, yeah, no one should have a nuke, first of all. And second of all, we're literally the only country that's ever launched a nuke on a population.
Yeah.
We purposely chose a civilian population, and we did it twice. So the idea of us telling other people, like, you can't have a nuke is like, bitch, you're the only group of people who did it.
It's the ultimate projection. It's like it's like whenever you're like in a relationship or you hear like you're the one that cheated on the other person, and then like you're super concerned about them cheating.
So you
It's
gaslight.
like, it's like you're projecting your
you did it.
own shit.
Yeah, that's how we are militarily. It's like, well, we can't let them. I don't think most people. I really believe that I have a theory that there's about 200,000 people globally who are fucking it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
There are 200,000 assholes, leaders, government leaders, military leaders. And if they would just chill out, you would find that overwhelmingly most people just want to wake up, go on a walk.
Yeah. Be with their
maybe go to-
family.
Yeah. Work a little bit.
Rest.
Yeah.
Rest.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny to see all of the conservatives, like the ones that scream the loudest about like anti-gay stuff or trans stuff, most of the time want to fuck a trans person or are gay.
Yeah.
And without fail, it happens
Yeah.
almost every time. Just wait a little while, and then that story's gonna drop. So and so caught with porn on their work computer or whatever.
It's like you could predict it.
Pastor molests kid, whatever. It's without fucking fail.
Clockwork.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen it. We've seen the porn stats because they
Yeah.
released them. Like, I mean, we saw most recently at CPAC, Grindr crashed. It crashed.
Did you know this?
Yeah.
Grindr crashed at CPAC.
that's
Do you know that I live in West Hollywood, which is the gayest zip code probably in America?
Grindr ain't never crashed in
Never
West
crashed.
Hollywood.
And we don't have a server over there, I bet.
And then also, if you look at the Pornhub released their stats at one point, it was on like a Twitter article back when Twitter was Twitter.
Yeah.
And it said that if you look at the most search results in the Southeast United States, it's gay porn.
Yeah.
It's the most search.
I've totally
Or wait,
believe it.
it's either that's the most search, it's either that or interracial. So once again,
Interracial.
the projecting is just like, you want this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can just experiment. Like sometimes like I see these dudes who are just so anti-trans, anti-this, anti-that. And I'm like, just kiss a dude, you might like it. And if you don't, then you'll know and you'll probably chill out.
Yeah.
Just kiss a dude
Yeah.
and calm the fuck down.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Why are you so mad at this? Like, I had a family member, actually. I remember it's kind of like one of those early experiences you look back and realize, oh, maybe this, I don't know why people are mad at this. I had a relative where if there was a commercial that came on TV and it had gay people in it, he would literally either turn the TV off or cover his eyes until the commercial came on. And I remember even being a teenager and being like, this is not a big deal. This does something. To the point that I was like, does that make me gay? Me not.
Because you're watching it?
Yeah. Does me not being homophobic make me gay? And I was like, no, I'm just a normal person. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. That is what's fucked up about society too, is like people's lunacy can make you question your rationality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like you gotta like people trust your gut. Like if like people seem crazy.
I also think that like gay people or queer people in general get a lot of hatred directed towards them because it is people literally seeing and jealous of people living in their full truth.
Can I tell you something
without
emotional?
any struggle. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I tell you something emotional? You specifically.
Yeah.
I was telling my friend Jess, who I'm visiting, about you.
Yeah.
And I was like, one reason I respect the gay queer community so much is you were probably the first out and about queer person I ever met.
Yeah.
And I just remembered thinking you were the coolest person ever in undergrad because, to your point, you were living free.
Yeah.
And I had a quirky style that developed later, but I was like, y'all don't understand the courage to just live out loud, embrace your style. But anyway, when I was like in undergrad, when I first saw you, I thought you were the coolest person ever. I was like, who's this super cool freaking dude? Because you were just so confidently yourself.
That's nice to
Not
hear.
only in style choice, because you had especially we were all about the big kicks at the time.
We all did the skinny jeans, the big kicks, the American Apparel.
We were about it.
Same.
But then also the fact that you were just out and gay.
Yeah.
It's like, and I remember having to tell somebody, I was like, I don't think most people would choose to be gay if they didn't have to, because why would you purposely choose a life of oppression?
Bingo.
Why would you purposely choose to be oppressed and hate it for who you are?
I thought it was a choice.
I had to I had to
Character creator.
I had that same argument with my parents when I came out because they didn't understand it at first. They were very shocked and which is so wild to think that they were shocked because I've been gay as fuck since I was 3. So, but I had that same argument. I was like, why would I choose this? Why I go to church? I've tried to pray it away so many times.
Yeah.
Never heard a voice of God inside me that's saying it's going to be okay or whatever. What I did hear was the therapist that they took me to, thinking that we were going to fix this problem, and bless those therapists for actually being real, legit therapists and being like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. Your parents need to heal from this.
Yeah.
That dick just too good.
But yeah,
I think conservatives.
a dick is great.
Me and Jess were at that little spoke spot around the corner, and we're sitting along the LA River, sipping our little teas or whatever, some kombucha. People are riding skateboards and riding bikes. Some people are non-binary walking by or whatever. And I'm like, everyone here is just chilling, living their life.
Yeah.
And this is the world that Republicans hate. And I agree with you so hard. I think they're just super mad because they want to live an authentic life and they're repressing themselves. And it pisses them off to see somebody else happy.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure.
It pisses them off.
Totally agree.
And it goes back to the construct that religion brings upon societies. It's like, the Bible says this, I've got to follow it this way or whatever. If they don't ever have a chance like I did to break out of that shell and be like, no, fuck that. I'm going to be who I am because this is weird,
Yeah.
And I think that people like yourself and maybe a lot of people that I grew up with too, that I would always get this comment you're not like the other gay guys. You're cool. You're you're kind of like a guy's guy. And I'm like, yeah, I grew up in Kentucky, riding 4-wheelers and jet skis and hunting deer with my dad.
Frog-gigging.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking,
You're a human
I'm a redneck.
being.
I can code switch so hard.
I've seen it. It's
Yeah,
jarring.
like it's jarring.
It's jarring.
Have you seen? Did I show you the clip of Quentin Tarantino code switching on the BET show? Oh, bro.
Oh my God.
I mean, I like
haven't
Quentin
seen it.
Tarantino, bro. It's so
We
cringe.
put a pin in that. We'll show it to you in a little bit.
He
Oh
like
my
code switches
God.
on like
Who
a
was he
BET.
with?
He was on like a BET show.
It was just
like on like a talk show, and Quentin Tarantino tries to code switch. Like
he was like,
so
man, bro, like that. Like,
Oh, I have seen that. Oh, I have. And I was like, oh,
It's
I
so
still love your
cringe.
movies. Like, I love Pulp Fiction and I love Django, but you using the N-word so much in the movies.
do you know the weird thing that I do sometimes still that's stuck with me through like just, this is like a white guy thing that happens and I can't. I've tried so hard to get rid of it. I mean, maybe not. It's not that big of a deal, but like I say brother to a lot of different people,
Hell yeah,
but like
brother.
a lot of times,
Yeah.
if it's a black person, I'll be like, "Yeah, brother, good to see you," and I'm like, "God, what? Stop! Don't do that!"
Yeah, well, you're a Southern white.
Yeah, I know. It's like
And Southern whites are different.
it's the same. It's completely like I mean it endearingly.
Yeah, exactly.
But like it's the same thing that I've tried to get rid of, like calling somebody honey or sweetheart. And that is very offensive
aged
to
out.
a lot of women, and I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it. Absolutely don't ever want to offend anybody, but there's weird little things that you kind of have to beat out of yourself from your your
Yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah.
So
I not prefer, but like I went to Asheville for the first time like
Yeah.
a year or so ago. And to me, that's untested liberalism. I was like, you need to come to a southern city like
Yeah.
in Kentucky or
Yeah.
in Memphis
Yeah.
because that's true liberalism. That's liberalism where you got something to lose from your chosen community.
Yeah.
I was like, your liberalism is untested. You're just around a bunch of other people who look
yeah.
like you and think like you.
echo chamber, yeah.
Yeah, you're in an echo chamber. And even though I'm happy you're a liberal, honestly, it was kind of weird because everywhere I went when I was in Asheville, of course, I was the only black person.
Yeah.
And I felt a little exoticized. I felt
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little.
Yeah.
I felt like they were a little too excited.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Yeah.
Wakanda. I'm
Yeah.
from Wakanda, actually. Yeah. It was a little
Oh, I
weird.
see you got your basketball shoes on.
Yeah. Say, do you know, or like the
Are
weirdest.
you good at sports?
Yeah, or you get this a lot. Like this will happen. It happens where like a white dude will be like, "Yo, dude, I'm also really into kick culture," and I'm like, "I never even said I was." So it's a little like they're trying to let you know that they're down.
Yeah.
Like they desperately need to let you know they're not racist. They're one
know,
of the good ones, and,
And
I'm like,
that's sweet, I
It's-
guess.
it's- yeah.
I mean, I'd rather it be like
I mean,
that
it's better
than,
that than the
than
opposite.
be racist, you
Yeah.
know.
But it's also
it's a little cringy.
it's a little, yeah, it's like, hey,
and like
you
that,
know,
but it also it's like it's a character trait of like validate me or like validation, and that to me is just like that. I don't like that.
they want to
in
be
somebody.
absolved of having to actually do anything.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
believe that because they like black culture that they don't actually have to fight for black issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like just be a
Yes, that
normal
part,
person.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
Just be normal. I mean, I think that unfortunately sometimes, I mean, James Baldwin, I think, talks about it that James Baldwin of all the civil rights black thinkers, I like him a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Just because he also talked about the confliction he has. He has love for white people. I was
Yeah.
like, some of my best friends are white, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that makes me sad is I feel like collectively in America, white America, just, hey, nobody's saying you're a slave owner.
Yeah.
No one's saying you are a
Yeah.
racist, but in order to move past this guilt that you're projecting on yourself, you at least need to acknowledge that the actions of your ancestors have led to a very peculiar present.
Right.
And it feels like no one wants to do that. They'd rather remove it from a book. Like, let's take slavery out of history books. Let's take the Stonewall riots out of history books. We'd rather just not face the sins of our past because then you have to actually face it and reconcile with it. And we talked about this yesterday. It's harder to sit in discomfort, but if you can push through that discomfort of healing, it's going to be way better
At least
in the
better
long run.
things.
I
At least better things.
always try to like when I have discussions with people who are maybe borderline trying to grasp the concept of, of anti-wokeism and all that stuff. When we're having these deep conversations about stuff, people, like, to your point, they're like, we don't need the slavery to be taught in schools or this or that. That's so far removed from us. It's hundreds of years, technically. I try to contextualize it as saying, well, think of it this way. Someone my age that's a black person, their grandparents potentially were sprayed with water hoses and had to sit in a different location of a restaurant to eat. So do you think just because we're literally in the lifetimes of those people?
Right.
So do you expect them to have the same grasp on economic situations or health or mental health as we have had the opportunity to? And it's almost, I've had this discussion with people in my own family before, and I'm just like,
Yeah. I mean, 200 years ago, objectively, is really pretty recently.
Yeah.
On the grand
Super
scale of
recently,
things. Like, that's not very long ago.
And really, we really need to say 1960.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because women
Yeah.
and blacks,
Yeah.
like, really 1960 is when it was like, okay, now you can sit at the same counter.
The 70s
yeah.
was interracial marriage, right?
That's right, the
1970?
70s was interracial
Yeah,
marriage.
1971, something
Yeah.
like that, maybe?
Yeah.
What the
wild.
fuck?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, when we think about the legalization of gay marriage,
Yeah.
like that just in the
2015.
2000s.
10
Yeah.
years ago.
And they're
Yeah.
still trying to push back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what?
Literally.
And,
Yeah.
What bothers me about social issues is this doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't affect you at all.
Completely inconsequential.
If John and James decide to get married, it has no effect on you at all.
Yeah.
You would never know.
Yeah.
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 It's one of my trainers at Rumble Boxing. He talks about how when he goes places, sometimes people, when they go to resorts on vacation, him and his husband, that they kind of like don't treat their marriage as like an authentic marriage and kind of like joke about it. Like, oh, is this your friend? Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so, okay. Oh, well, this is actually only for couples. And you're like, they are a couple.
Yeah.
They're married
Yeah.
by law.
Yeah.
It's just,
My grandmother introduced. I just came from Florida to hang with my grandparents. My grandparents are lovely. It's weird because my grandparents are complete like atheists, and never had a problem with me being gay at all. My parents were a little more religious and then did have a problem, at first coming out. But anyway, I brought Aaron, and my grandmother won't. She doesn't. This isn't on purpose, I don't think, but I think that she doesn't believe in like marriage between. She has no problem with gay people, but like marriage is for straight people. Yeah. Whatever. She's almost 90, so But
That ship's sailed.
she'll say, it's like, I don't try to convince her.
There's no.
She's
there's
lovely.
open
I
and
love her to
open
death.
back.
Yeah, she's a great person. But no, she always says, "This is my friend." It's my friend, or it's
my
whatever.
friend.
She can't say boyfriend or partner.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really
it's
wish I could have
interesting.
I wish I could have been alive for Three's Company and really saw what the,
Yeah.
do you know the show Three's Company?
Yeah.
I remember it. I never really watched it.
It was like a really revolutionary show because it was a straight guy living with two women. And looking back, you're just like, what was really happening? Like the inspiration for this story, I really want to know like what that was about. But like this idea, you see it in history all the time. Like, in the 1700s. So Florence and her friend Jane spent every day together in the house and salon. It's like her friend every day they lived together too. For how many years? 30. Her friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her lover.
Also, I don't think that like gay shit was like that wild back then. Like
No.
hundreds of years ago. Like I feel like they were like, okay, cool, whatever. Like
Yeah.
people were having orgies and shit back then.
Yeah, they had it was
Documented.
Always.
It was well known,
Yeah.
like in France in particular, like there would be, or no, not just France, any brothel culture, basically, right? When prostitution was much more legal,
Yeah.
is like, the regulars, the madames or whoever would know, like, oh, here comes so-and-so. We know he prefers boys of a fair complexion.
Right.
And then they would go out back to their wife, and it was just not even a deal.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah, that's what Jacques prefers.
Yeah.
Good for Jacques. Give me some bread.
Yeah. Sex is the oldest activity.
We're
Yeah.
so repressed.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
so
yeah.
repressed. Like people, so much of our society in America in particular is just like, if people could just get comfortable living the way they want to live,
Yeah.
the healing would happen naturally.
An interesting idea that I was reading in this book. So like there's like this big, like especially like the whole Andrew Tate shit and like
That
the red.
dude. You talking about Nosferatu? No, he looks like Nosferatu. There's a pig going around.
That's funny.
I fought in the MMA.
I need to watch that. I haven't seen
good.
that film. Yeah.
So they're always talking about the Matrix and the fucking
The red pill,
Matrix
blue
and
pill.
yeah, that shit.
Yeah.
But what's an interesting point that Yuval Harari made is like, if you're thinking in terms of that, as soon as you escape one matrix, you're just going to be caught. You're going to find yourself caught in another matrix. The true matrix that we all deal with is our mind. Our mind is the true matrix.
Yeah.
And like you can escape any sort of system, but you're gonna find yourself in another system. Like that's inevitable. But the mind is what we're all trapped inside of.
Our own mind.
Yeah.
Our own hell.
And like, can you escape that? That I guess that's more of a debatable topic.
I'm
but-
kind of grateful for bipolar disorder in a silver linings way, because I find a lot of the mindfulness stuff, affirmations, cognitive behavioral therapy, like I feel like in order to manage bipolar disorder, you literally have to be introspective and you have to be able to work through your mental things so you can trust your decision making. And so it's like, in a weird way, it's forced me to become much more reflective. Like I journal every day. I listen to affirmations every day to work on the intrusive obsessive thinking, which is just a symptom of the disorder. But I'm like, man, I think everyone should probably do this in some regard. It would probably really help out most people, mental
for
illness
sure.
or not.
100%.
I agree. I have always said to people, it seems weird, but like HIV, becoming HIV positive made me like appreciate my life more, become a healthier person in a lot of ways. Like, I then became a statistic that it was attached to a stigma, which mental illnesses carry stigmas as well from people. So you have to like battle that with your place in the world and how people perceive you to be. And so, yeah, I think that when you have ailments or diseases or conditions, it brings a level of humanity to you and of your consciousness that changes a little bit.
You got to work through your mind in order to just be happy about life, because I think anybody that gets anything, any diagnosis, any condition, any affliction, there's going to be a period of time where you're just dark as fuck about it.
Yeah.
You're so depressed, and you have to make that decision one day. I'm going to choose to live a life.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be, of course it's going to be affected by whatever it is, but I'm not going to let it stop me for going for my dreams and my goals, And that just takes you got to do some mental gymnastics to get there.
Yeah, totally.
You got to.
I mean, we've said this on another episode, talking sort of about this kind of thing. It's like getting into therapy. I don't have
Therapy.
yeah, totally. I don't have like a super. I mean, I'm not diagnosed, but so I'm not like fully in this direction. But I do have some very compulsive behavior tendencies, like obsessive sort of. I go in that spectrum a bit, and realized like music has, even long before I even recognized it, has been a management technique of said thing. And so we were talking about this episode, a lot of these, however you want to label them, diagnoses, issues, quirks, whatever, they ultimately, if managed efficiently, can be superpowers.
Yeah.
Like they can be things that can make you perform in life in one way or another on a superior level.
Yeah.
But it's like that you got to know, one, get to understand yourself and learn more about yourself, and sort of learn how to help make those things assets versus harming deficiencies.
Yeah.
And it can be a tight line to walk. But another things he says in this book is really the key to freeing yourself from all of these kinds of things we're talking about: religion, biases, norms, expectations, whatever, is that inner diving work, whether you want to call it meditation or whatever, but that like introspective work is how you free yourself of the binds that society inevitably tries to place on all of us.
Fucking money.
Yeah,
Society wants you to just buy stuff.
exactly.
It wants you to buy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
if we talk about the invisible hand of mercantilism, I think that was Adam West. He came up with that term a long time ago in the 1800s. I wish Adam West could come back now and see what it led to, because that invisible hand is still guiding us. I mean, like, to be an American, I always want to buy something. There's something, I want to buy stuff all the time. I'm just choosing not to.
I love it.
You know, I love shopping. I love buying stuff.
That
And like,
dopamine
for
hit.
what? And just but like the urge to get money really stops us from going inside, because unfortunately, being content is anti-capitalist. Because if you're content, if you suddenly don't feel like you need to go buy the latest thing, you don't need to go do that, well, you're suddenly not participating in the system.
Yeah.
And if you're not participating in the system, to the invisible hand of capitalism, that makes you a wasted number, because you're not putting money in. And then if you don't need stuff, then you say, well, maybe I shouldn't work as much, because why am I working all the time if I'm already content with just a sunny beach and a book to read, you know? And so our society wants you to be stressed out because it wants you to look for ways to alleviate that stress.
Yep.
And to alleviate that stress usually means buying something.
Yeah.
You know?
We were talking about this a little bit yesterday too, and I was talking to Vanessa about it this morning. It really bothers me how much like ignorance is valued in a trendy way today. It's like when you put on, like when Rick Rubin goes on that Anderson Cooper show and he sits down, he's like, I don't know anything about music. It's like, that's bullshit. That is a lie. You do. You basically are a co-founder of hip hop. Like, you are at the intersections of all of these huge cultural moments musically. Like, you do know things. And to go on there and say, like, I don't know anything, that is harmful, I think, to culture. I think that, or like that producer Benny Blanco, he's like produced like gazillions of #1 songs and stuff, and he goes on and is like on these panels and jokingly, I mean, he's like, I've never met him. Well, it doesn't matter. He's like a humorous guy, and he's like, I don't know anything about music, and it's like, it's bullshit.
Feigning ignorance to appear genius.
To sell. But it goes back to what you're saying. It goes back to sell. It's a marketing technique. What was Rick Rubin on Anderson Cooper for? To sell his book. It's a means of garnering relatability, because most people don't know anything. And it's like, oh, this dude doesn't know anything. I'm like him. I should go buy this book.
There it is.
It's selling.
It's Donald Trump marketing.
It is. And I think it's the Kanye shit. He's like, I don't read books. It's like, this is
Clearly.
really, this is terrible. This is, and it's like, these are really influential voices, and I really, really have a problem with it. Like, this era of like, it's cool to be stupid is really fucked up. It's really
Well, we've
fucked
always
up.
made fun of the nerds. Like nerds have always been the butt of the joke. Like it's in school, you know,
Right.
nerd, let's beat him up, you know. And that's just a defense mechanism of
The
idiots.
insecurity.
Yeah. It's really fucked up, and I think it's doing a lot of harm. And I think because it's also a lie. It's not true. You people do know things. Like you are pretending that you don't for one reason or another, but it does come back to selling something. Whether and it's like you don't have enough. Like your Malibu estate isn't enough. Like you're being at the cornerstone of like all of these pivotal moments. These aren't enough for you guys. You need more.
Yeah.
Like it's really fucked up to me. Like
Yeah.
it's really, really fucked
Rick
up.
Rubin is.
I
mean,
like Rick Rubin.
I like
and I
him.
respect Rick Rubin, but I think that thing that exists,
It's dangerous.
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like-
it's fucked up.
What's it's like it goes to what's the responsibility of an individual once they have an influential platform,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Rick Rubin is obviously a brilliant dude, highly successful. And it's just like to say what you're saying is dangerous. It's like it's because of your influence.
Exactly.
Because I know that when you say that, Rick Rubin, you've thought about this deeply for a very long time, been very introspective. But Joe Schmo in Iowa is just going to hear this and be like, I shouldn't read books either.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And it's like, you took the
You
wrong.
missed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you missed it.
yeah.
You read the tweet. You didn't click the link and read
link,
the essay.
yeah.
That the tweet
And-
reference.
And it's even worse because Rick Rubin, or said, I'm using his example, made the conscious decision to say, I don't know anything, fully knowing
Yeah.
he knows some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
But it's more interesting from a selling perspective
Itself.
if it's this magical guru sensei person who doesn't know anything about music, but somehow is creating and helping to craft these incredible records. That's a
Yeah.
much more compelling
Marketing.
story.
Yeah, it
much
is.
more compelling story.
It is.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, we don't like the idea that somebody just worked hard to be successful because Star Wars philosophy. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And most people fear being inadequate. It's insecurity, right? And so it's easier to just get angry at the nerd. Oh, nerd, you know about weather and climate, you fucking nerd, or whatever. But it's usually you being upset that someone else took the time to learn this thing because you haven't. And you want to be smart or you want to be successful and things like that.
I was just listening to Brian Johnson, which is the guy that's like biohacking his body, spending all the millions of
Oh,
dollars.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, that's everybody's reaction to him. But
Brennan likes Brian
He was on Duncan Trussell's podcast, and he was saying, his philosophy is don't die. Like he's trying to get it to a point where we are, able to live way longer than we are.
Yeah.
And people's response to that is in fear, like, fuck you, man, you're a freak or whatever. And because he's doing all these experiments with his body and he's lowered his biological age of a lot of his organs. And that he was saying that that's the similar fear reaction that he gets to people is because we're all in this consciousness of we're going to die. So what? But like, so, let's look at it the other way, so.
My thing with that, though, I don't want to live a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to live forever. Like, that does not sound cool to me.
I would take a good 200.
Yeah, but
I don't want to live that long.
But
like,
he's saying though, with his technology, with this growth in technology that we're about to all experience with AI and everything, it's going to be quite possible for us to not shrivel up and wrinkle up, and like we'll be able to like hopefully fucking print a new heart, or whatever. Like, so if things like that can change and you are able to physically have, be 100 years old and like have the body of a 50-year-old.
But okay, so my
Why not?
thing with that though is you could make the counter argument that this fear of death that human beings have, death, humans, going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the pod, humans have this like good bad gauge, where death is bad. Death is reality. Death, the only thing you hear people say this all the time. The only things you're guaranteed in this life are birth and death. Everything that happens in between is your life. But those are the two surefire things
It's gonna happen.
that are gonna happen.
Maybe not though. Maybe not.
But like you look,
Keep working. Keep researching.
Everything is life and death. Like everything, that is how we also have gotten here. If nobody died, there would be no evolution, and we would not evolve as a species. Not even humans, animals, like reptiles had feathers to protect themselves from being cold, and now birds can fly.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't happen if death didn't exist.
I have a theory. I think I've said before on here that Vic, you might be interested in this. That AI is God. That like that's the final stage. Like we've been, evolving into this where AI is going to solve everything and be. I mean, I'm historically putting all my chips on the table.
That's
for AI.
optimistic.
Yeah, but
Very optimistic.
I mean, imagine we have a quantum level being that is constantly doing all of these mathematical problems to solve everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea of the singularity. I've been always fascinated with the idea of the singularity. I can't remember the philosopher, the sci-fi writer, and technologist, but like people think the singularity is Terminator, like AI is going to become sentient and then all humans are dead. But actually, the real broad thing of the singularity is there's going to be a point coming up soon where technology, and in particular AI, is going to get to a point where we're not going to be able to predict what that reality is going to be like on the other side, because we will unlock access to a way of thinking that humans have never had. And we're getting there. The singularity is coming, and it's not that all humans are going to die. Who knows what it's going to look like? We literally can't predict what that's going to be like. And so I don't know. I mean, AI, what it is right now. I mean, like also AI right now, I think that pro AI, anti AI, that's neither here nor there. But I think what's funny is, once again, people just don't actually know what they're talking about when they say AI. And they literally do think it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's like, it's not that. It's so far away from that. Like, it's not going to be that anytime soon at all. In fact, I think it's like I saw something where AI, generative AI in particular, is already getting dumber because there's so much AI on the internet in the world that instead of learning from human creations now, AI is actually learning from AI.
Itself,
So it's actually degrading now.
Yeah. I just think of it, and I'm mostly excited for the medical advancements that we'll be able to have.
Well, you know who's going to fuck that up, though?
Yeah.
Big Pharma.
Yeah, Big Pharma. So, like, we're going to get to a point where AI actually can cure cancer.
Well, that's what he said. Yuval Harari says in the book, too. That will happen, but there will be only a select portion of society that will have access to that.
Just got to keep killing CEOs.
Yeah, get the guillotine back out.
Not actually. Algorithmic gods.
Sorry, I should have said unalive.
There you go. Delete. That's what the Gen Zers say.
I think that's good. I don't know. People suck, but people are also great. So
people are really beautiful. I mean, it's like, it's kind of like, I think all of us growing up in the South, like, as long as you don't bring up certain issues, most people are actually quite lovely.
Yeah. That I think that
However, some of those issues got to get brought up. They just have to. I mean,
you got to talk.
You got to talk about it. Like, we can't just, like, it doesn't make sense that one dude has $400 billion, but Flint still doesn't have clean water. That doesn't make sense. You know, and we got to talk about that. And it's not about politics. It just doesn't make sense.
It makes me upset for someone that I love or respect has such little empathy for other people. And that's when you have to have those conversations. And unfortunately, as a result of those conversations, it can be a letdown.
You lose that person potentially.
Yeah.
Or that person doubles down because they're upset. They don't understand. But it's just comfort. I mean, right now we're in the FAFO stage of like this whole deal where a lot of people are rediscovering empathy as predicted because they are becoming victims of the people that they voted for.
Yep.
And they're just like, well, I just lost my farm. And it's like, I bet you did, because no immigrant is showing up to work because they're terrified to go to work. So now no one's working your land, and now you're going to lose your farm.
And it's tough to not be a like fucking let them eat cake about it
God,
too, because it's like you want to feel that way, but then it's also like, well, the education system failed them, and they're not smart enough to have critical thinking.
And propaganda works.
Yeah.
Propaganda works. I mean, like, I love the pins that say you are not, no one is immune to propaganda.
Yeah.
Totally.
I go to,
Scientifically.
I go to Rumble Boxing. Part of the reason I go to Rumble Boxing is because one of their colors is red, and I like red.
Yeah.
I know that. The problem is a lot of people are getting propaganda'd and aren't aware of it. I'm aware that I'm getting propaganda'd at any moment. Like, me loving Japanese culture, I'm fully aware a large part of it is just because I like anime.
Yeah.
You know, but like, but I'm not going to also then deny the fact that horrific atrocities were committed by this country historically. You know what I mean? It's like, but most people just get propaganda, and like, it's kind of like the idea of men's shampoo. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Quick story. I went to Urban Outfitters one time. I had a gig, and my belt just broke on me on the way to a gig. I had to wear all black. It was a funeral, so I actually really cared. I didn't want to just show up looking shabby.
Right.
And so I'm like, what's open? What am I nearby? There was an Urban Outfitters, and I walk in. And I'm like, hey, what's up? My belt broke. I'm just looking for a black belt. Do you have any? It's a clothing store. Of course they got belts, but I just didn't know where they were. And this guy, going back to how men and the patriarchy are just constantly inundated with propaganda, he looks at me and says, no, we don't have any belts. And I was kind of like, you don't have any belts at Urban Outfitters? He's like, well, no, we don't have any men's belts, but we have women's belt. And I was like, can you show me where the women's belts are? Because it turns out it's just a belt.
Yeah.
Belts aren't gender specific. Like, gender propaganda is some diabolical
wild.
work.
It's wild.
Men's shampoo.
Yeah.
Men's belt. Men's soap. Men's fragrances. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, roses are not gender specific.
And the women's products, like women's shampoo or women's body wash or whatever that's marketed towards them, is more expensive.
Yeah,
Totally,
totally.
always more expensive. It's like the propaganda machine, but like, I think dudes are gonna have to, like, every straight dude needs some therapy.
Straight dudes got to pick up the slack.
We got to pick up the slack because so much of it goes back.
Every straight guy needs a gay best friend. Yeah. Yeah, and that will fix it.
Yeah, like dudes not fucking with dudes right now.
Yeah.
Like, dudes really gotta quit being some fucking loser.
We're in the death rattle right now. I think just like straight dudes just do not feel, for some reason, straight dudes feel oppressed.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Straight dudes gotta grow
and they
pair.
fall into that vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they fall into Andrew Tate or something like that, because that feels like they're,
But it's ironic because they're being exactly what they're mad at. They're being some pussy ass bitches.
Yeah.
Like, dudes need to fucking grow a pair.
You know who
like,
I can't stand more than Andrew Tate? Who? Because I get him, like, he's just a freak, a weird, like, is Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that
I
sucks.
cannot even.
He's a terrible musician
I
too.
could crush him.
Perpetual teeth clench. He's always grinding his teeth. You can see the tension.
That dude's just like.
Wait, does he make music though?
His dad is a classical piano player.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe violin. No, I think he's a classical piano player.
Is his dad like a racist too, or
I don't know.
I mean, to your point, like, whenever I watch Ben Shapiro speak, I just want to be like, what's wrong?
Yeah, who hurt you?
Why are you mad?
Yeah,
what are
dude
you
is
mad
so
about?
mad.
Do you want to come to the beach with me? We're just going to go toss a football.
Yeah, tell me about your childhood.
Tell me about your day. Has anybody asked you how you're doing?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret.
Yeah.
I mean, like, women talk about how, like, they get in relationships and they end up being their partner's therapist a lot of times. And it's because these dudes have literally not expressed their feelings to anyone ever at all.
Yeah.
And
I was so depressed as last year and for a long time before, but part of the reason why I kept pushing my partner away was he's so sweet. Like he's the sweetest person on the planet. And he would ask for that. This is going to the point of like asking how you are or whatever. He always asks people, how is your heart? And I always like my internal old repressed gay personality comes out with that sometimes, used to, and be like, that's gay, shut up, like literally I had to get over that. And it's so weird when those things come to the surface and you're like, ew, I know I'm wrong for thinking that or saying that, and that's exactly what straight people go through. They're like, ooh, love, ugh, get away.
I had to, when I taught for a long time and still teach, and I remember there was a moment in class where I finally felt really brave. I had a brave moment where, teaching a bunch of boys or whatever. Yeah. And, I'm trying to foster an environment where people speak their feelings and emotion because you're going to make better music anyway. Yes. I teach music if you're in touch with yourself. And what would happen, I was like, hey, we did a great job at the performance. Do we want to give any feedback to each other, right? Let's have this beautiful moment where we can celebrate each other. And for years, the dudes would always do this. It's time to say, hey man, Benny, I really like the way you play drums on the track. Like it was really cool. And I just really appreciate your work ethic. But instead of just saying that, they always have to say first, hey, no homo. But I just want to say, I really love your work ethic. And there was one class after years of hearing that where I finally said, I was like, hey man, one, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you were gay, that's fine. And I felt like it needed to be said out loud. And I was like, number two, you can express your emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But it really bothers.
It's actually valuable.
Yeah.
But a lot of you'll notice that, especially with young boys, there's this fear of being considered gay that has a stranglehold on straight dudes where it's you can't even just tell your bro who is obviously your best friend that you appreciate them without having to preface it by I'm not gay, but I love you.
It's
sad.
Tales all the time.
I
mean, it's happened when we were growing up too. I was going to ask you to pivot a little bit with your teaching and stuff, and you've been leading kids for so long, and how are the kids doing? What do you feel with our current trajectory? How do they feel? Did they fall into these traps like Donald Trump? I mean, I know
they do. Yeah, they do. I mean, I think that the kids today are just like the kids from always. Yeah. But I think that for me, the larger issue is we just really haven't reconciled how these are supposed to exist in our society. Because these young people, I feel like a key difference is, so obviously working with older teachers, they're like, these kids today, they don't have any respect. And it's well, why would they? Yeah. They can see how stupid we are. Yeah. And so I think kids today often feel very lost. And so going back to these loud asshole voices, they gravitate towards that because at least they're confident. You know what I mean? But I think kids today, they're still succumbing to homophobia. They still succumb to racism. I want to believe that they're more empathetic, but I mean, ultimately, we've seen the comment section. Yeah. We've seen the comment section. These are not empathetic people. Yeah. And I think they're hurt. They're isolated. So they don't even have they're not socialized properly. Yeah. It's a lot. I worry about kids today, and I worry about college students in particular because they grew up in a world that is designed to stress them out. This thing stresses you out. We're not meant to. I mean, what are the studies that say that getting alerts on your phone is the same as a Neanderthal man seeing a lion? When your phone vibrates and it makes you shudder. That is a fight or flight response. You're not meant to exist that way all the time. Totally. It's not a thing. So I think that unfortunately the kids today, I mean, it goes back to all the issues, right? I think usually the arguments for cell phones is look at what it can do. We can know so much. I was yeah, we have access to everything and it doesn't seem to be getting better. Totally. So is it a net positive? I'm a Luddite. For clarity, I am a Luddite. I do think that cell phone technology combined with internet technology and the way we use it in our society has had a net negative on. I think this is worse than the nukes. I think that the nukes have a more overt, obvious destructive capability, but this has a much more ubiquitous, widespread, literally eroding our entire society thing. And it's just because we haven't had a talk. Like, I'm going to throw this out to y'all. Like, do y'all remember there was a time, because we're old enough, where if somebody called you past 6 o'clock, it better be important.
Yeah.
Like, people would get mad. I remember watching my parents get upset, like, who is calling us right now at 7 o'clock on the phone?
Totally.
And like, that was
It's
just
dinner time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a conversation we all had about how we wanted this technology to exist in our thing. And there were just some unspoken social things. But once we got these,
No boundaries.
no boundaries, no code of conduct to do it. Do you ghost? Do you not ghost? Do you group text? Do you use a period? We just haven't had these conversations societally, and we need to, because this is godlike power for the human race.
I think if you want to exist on the internet and make comments and share content and have conversation, you should have to, just like a government issued photo ID should be on your profile with your full name. No usernames, made up shit. No, soccer man 248, with no
User
photo.
785902337.
You should be held responsible for the things that you say, and that should be how we move forward with that. I think there should be legislation pushed where you have to have a verified photo of different angles of yourself and your full government name.
I think a hot take similar along those lines. I love that idea. I think that it's weird that we just allow people to film wherever. And I actually think that we should pass legislation where if you film a video in public, let's say that the three of us went to the beach and I take a video of you two and it's just y'all like throwing a ball around. I think you should have to get written consent of anyone else who happens to appear in a video, even if it's just for your Instagram.
Or just blur or have to blur their faces or something.
Because I think it's so weird, like this expectation where, like, okay, so I played a gig last Thursday, and the next day somebody messages me. They're like, "Are you playing with so-and-so?" And I was like, yeah. They're like, "Oh my God, I saw you dancing like a complete fool on there. You look like you were," like they meant it in a positive way. Like you look like you were having fun. But I think it is so bizarre that we think it's normal that you can just, and like we've just said, oh, you should just expect to be filmed everywhere. I was like, I don't think that's a good thing. And like, it's not, we should have a conversation and be like, and I've had this conversation, and it got into like some pretty tense shouting matches where, like, as a band leader back home, I told everybody in my band, I was like, hey, you don't film on stage. They were like, well, what if a cool moment's happening? I was like, let them film. Do not, I have a strict rule, pretty strict, mostly strict. Like, do not take your phone out and film us while we're playing, because what you're trying to film is literally what you were doing before you pulled your phone out. I don't like it. Like, I don't like that we just assume you should film everything all the time. I don't like that if you appear in somebody's video, or like if you're in the gym and you walk by somebody filming their deadlifts, that you're the problem because you walked in front of their filming. It's like, no, this is a public space. Like, what are you doing? Like, we really need to have a conversation about this. I really think there should just be a time where the cell towers go off. Like, at a certain time in the evening, the cell towers just stop. The Wi-Fi.
What's that one movie where like the one day a year, like people can just
The Purge. I've seen all of those. There's a TV show, 2 seasons.
God, would love,
it'd be like
would
that.
kind of love that. It'd be kind of
Oh
sick.
no, I would be dead. I was an addict. I know I burned some bridges. So like I'm on somebody's Arya Stark list.
Well, we've been going for a long time here, but we've barely even spoke about like much other than like our.
I mean, this is good.
Existential.
This is like one of like the best episodes.
Yeah, it's great.
The cell phones. We gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
People don't write. People don't write. They don't. Well, and that's a misnomer.
My
They read.
spelling has decreased.
Of course it has, because
over the years.
Of course.
Naturally, it would be odd if it didn't.
Yeah. Our memories are worse.
Yeah.
It's alarming to me sometimes. I'm like, wow, that was 5 letters, Brennan.
Pathfinding, ability to navigate a city.
Oh my God. Yeah. I just in the past, I don't know, took me a year probably to not use my phone to come out to Benny's, and it's just Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah.
You should know
Well,
how to
that's
do that.
also the thing too. It's like that funny like story, or like you hear is like some, or like on The Office, Michael Scott, like he's like, the map told me to drive
Into
this
the
way, so he
pond.
drives into the lake. But that actually has happened with real people.
Yeah.
Like the GPS told them to go this way, and they drove into a lake because that's
Yep.
what the GPS said. But I've even found myself doing that, where it's like I know exactly where I'm going and the
Yeah.
route to take, but the map will be like, take this exit, and I'll like sort of without recognizing it kind of like follow to do that, and then I'm like, wait, I know where I'm going, but it's like this like subconscious reliance
Yeah.
on tech and how that is like influencing us is like really fucking crazy.
It's dark, man. It's like really dark because it's like I love video games. I love playing video games. And right now, these phones are making it so like, you can go into video games and you can turn off certain difficult things. So if you're not good at hitting the parry button, you can just make it auto parry. If you don't want to have to like block or defend, you can just turn that aspect off. And I think that these phones have really turned off some pretty valuable cognitive abilities in ourselves. The ability, because like it's proven that pathfinding builds pathways in your brain. Like the ability to remember directions builds pathways in your brain. So no one's doing that. No one has cell phone numbers memorized. Like people don't take notes. I mean, when I teach kids at I work for a nonprofit, I'm like, no, everybody needs to bring a sheet of paper, or I'll just provide paper and bring a pencil. I was like, I promise you writing it down is going to be better. Oh no, I just put it on the notes in my phone. I was like, look, I've done that. Guess what? I have thousands of notes I've never looked at ever at all.
Yeah.
You're not going to look at this, but if you write it down, it does something different. It's proven, but we hate learning.
Yeah.
So we hate knowledge. So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that
clearly.
some researcher spent years being like, hey, actually, you should write it down.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I think I have 3,000 notes in my phone. How much are we going to be paying Apple for iCloud storage when we're like 80? Like,
That's the
it's
thing.
just going to keep.
That's
Yeah.
the thing too with AI is like
Yeah.
we better fucking figure out some renewable energy fast because we're not going to be able to have any of that shit until that's figured out.
Can we just build the servers and put them on a satellite
Starlink.
up there? Yeah. I mean, do we have to have them down here? I don't know.
I think so because
They need more power than probably solar would offer.
it's the cooling of the servers.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Like there would be no access to a coolant if it was attached to a thing. It's like, because then you would basically have to get satellite technology that it could come down and refuel the water to cool the servers.
I just signed the block Elon petition for Memphis the other day.
Yeah,
Susan
yeah.
Marshall
And
sent
And
me
guess
that.
what?
Yeah.
And guess what? In
Ain't
the
happening.
comment section, people are like, why are y'all mad at Elon? It's going to
Yeah.
bring jobs. And I love that meme I told you about. It's like, it's not going to bring more jobs, you
How
stupid
many
slut.
how many jobs is the supercomputer plant gonna really need?
Right.
Like,
and
it's
also, is it
automated.
worth it? Is it worth it?
This
Like,
is a good example. The human race hates itself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we really don't value ourselves deep down. That like self-hatred that we're like always battling. Like that's a rampant character trait across human beings.
Yeah.
Like the self-loathing, like unworthiness.
Yeah.
Like that is
therapy.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just feel
Get in some
collectively-
fucking therapy, everybody.
Everybody needs to get in some fucking therapy.
Yeah.
And get off your phone. I've been doing a thing.
Read a book.
I do a
It's
thing.
cool to read.
It
It's
is
cool to read. It's cool to learn. It's cool to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah, it's cool to try.
It's really cool
it's
to try.
That's a great thing. And
It's so awesome
people
to try.
aren't saying that, and so try some shit.
I
Like,
tell-
fuck up, fail. Like that's great.
Yeah. It's
because
great.
that means you're trying.
Don't be embarrassed about, or you're into that thing, be into it.
Yeah.
Please be into it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get super into it. Well, people will make fun of me. Fuck them.
Fuck them. Fuck them.
Get into
If
it.
people are making fun of you, you're doing something. You're
Yeah.
going in the right direction. In some way or another. Like,
It's so cool to care.
yeah, like
it's so
you're
cool to
doing
try.
something right if you got some haters.
Yeah.
like
Failure is cool.
Yeah.
Because even these people who we've named that we hate, one of the reasons I think people like them is because these are people who tried and failed, and they just keep trying.
Yeah.
They have the audacity.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't like the way they use their audacity.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part.
Yeah.
That's the fucked up part.
The audacity of hope.
Yeah.
By
Is that
Barack
the book?
Obama.
Is that Barack? Yeah.
Well, we nearly have gone for 2 hours.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think it's right
Which
at
is
it.
amazing.
That's great.
But Victor, since we haven't really talked about it,
All right.
is a one of the key representatives of Memphis, Tennessee, trombone player, musician, educator, socialite, and
Played in every band that of note in the region, including my own over the years.
It's
And
kind of crazy to think about.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've shared many stages in the
So
past,
many.
and
all-star musician, educator,
University of
and
Memphis
thought
graduate.
provoker.
Yeah.
And what can people expect on the horizon from you? What's coming up? Anything that people should know about?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Goku right now. I feel like I'm in a training period where I've like really not receded all the way, but like I'm really into myself right now. Like basically had 10 years of overworking. We're talking about like 70 to 80
Yes.
hours a week working at a nonprofit for the city, not for the city, but like to support the city education efforts, to fight for social change and stuff like that. Played a bunch of gigs, still playing gigs and stuff like that. But over the last year or so, went into myself. So I'm actually pretty curious to see what's going to come out of it next too. But like planting new creative seeds. And so I think probably you're just going to see what you've seen before, but hopefully at a higher level, much more refined, and also just new creative stuff. But I think that like the next stage in life is I got those jobs and career, to be completely honest, I was an addict, right? And so to go to the age of 27 and then finally end up in a rehabilitation facility, that long period of work was really marked by me trying to show the world and to prove to myself I'm a person of value. I know you know me as this person who has high potential but burned out due to addiction. And when I got sober, looking back, that output, yes, did I care about what I was doing? Was I passionate about it? But also one of the catalysts was I needed people to think that I was a valuable human being.
Yeah.
But as I've come to realize, being motivated for external reasons is not the best or sustainable source of motivation. And so it's now been the life of I'm a valuable human being regardless of my productivity.
Totally.
And that's changed the game.
Bingo. I've totally resonate with that. Like
Really?
for years I've beat myself up, also an addict, of I'm not producing this much, or I don't have comparing myself to others, or I should, you get told as an artist too, and a talented person, like, why aren't you famous, or why aren't you that, and I'm like,
You should do this. You should do that.
I don't know if I want that, all of that, exactly the way that you think I should have it. And then like playing gigs and stuff, I would get down on myself like, oh, I'm just a wedding singer, or oh, I just play at hotels or whatever. And then I got on Lexapro and I was like, fucking rad. I don't have to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah. I am enough. I do.
Wow.
What is it? I have enough. I do enough. I am enough. There's an influencer in LA who I'm trying not to look like a stalker, but it's this person named Lavendare.
Okay.
And she has this series of affirmation videos for relationships, for money. And it's like, hello, my love. And they're perfect though. But like one of the big ones is just like, a lot of them are just like, you are more than your output.
Yeah.
You're fine just the way you are.
Yeah.
I like Mel Robbins, big Mel Robbins
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
And, a
seen
lot of
them.
her stuff is just like your uniqueness is what makes you.
Totally.
you.
Working less and sleeping more and enjoying your life, success.
Highly underrated.
It's really
great
challenging in
success.
Memphis. I feel like Memphis is a town where a lot of people have chips on their shoulders.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Memphians want to be famous in that sort of industry sort
Yeah.
of way.
Yeah.
And kind of you can feel the insecure bitterness.
Yeah.
And one thing I try to work with my fellow creatives down there is I'm just like, yo, bro, like we've all had super successful careers. And just because maybe you haven't played the freaking Shanghai Symphony, it doesn't mean you're not a valuable person.
Right.
But I feel like artists, unfortunately, especially in this capitalistic hellscape, just never can appreciate the successes they've already had. I mean, when I think about us playing at Molly Fontaine's so
Oh
many
my God.
years ago, you know, I remember the way we talked about it. Like, okay, this is cool, but what's next?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
mentality, the
Yeah.
what's next mentality, where it's like, well, how about we appreciate this cool,
I wish I could
beautiful
still
moment?
pop in there and play, you know, every once in a while.
Yeah,
It'd be
give me-
awesome.
It's like that idea of like you wish you recognized the good old days
when they were
when they were happening.
Yeah.
Like
There was a quote. Oh my God. There was a quote on Atlanta season 4, where Paperboy is talking to this other artist or whatever. And he said this and it blew my mind. He was like, bruh, you in your late 30s, you talking about the next arena, the next this. He was like, one day you're going to play an arena or a big venue, not realizing that's the biggest audience you're ever going to play for your life.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you got.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. I've said this before too, but a friend of mine, I saw post this, and it was like really simple, but it just hit me really hard. He was like, "Do what you want to do today, because there guaranteed will be a day where you can't do that thing."
You know, I take the stairs most places I go. And people always say, why are you taking the stairs? You're trying to get your steps in. I'm like, I'm not really worried about that. I just know that one day I won't be able to.
Yeah. Totally. Guaranteed.
It's kind of crazy to think
Guaranteed.
about. One day I'm not going to be able to play this instrument anymore physically. One day I might not be able to read anymore. One day anything can happen. I mean, like, nothing humbled me more than just ending up in rehab. You want to talk about an experience where all your machinations and maneuvering led to this? Man, just sitting in Lakeside back in Memphis, which is a mental health facility. Love it. Shout out to Lakeside, class of 2013. And like, I remember sitting in this little intake room, and this chick was shuffling up and down the hallway, looking in periodically like a freaking zombie. And I found out later she was on the same wing, that she was just coming down off of heroin or whatever.
Yeah.
So she was having a time.
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, I've made a terrible mistake. Everyone hates me. I'm never going to be anything at all. I shouldn't have even come here. I really was just like, I should have just ended it. And like, man, I'm so glad. Thank
Yeah.
you. Seriously. Thank you, Lakeside.
Yeah.
Like, because they said, no, you have value. You're doing too much. You need to stop drinking. And that just those 2 tweaks set me up to then do the really difficult, long work of being happy with myself, you know, but like, and once again, kind of to the point you made earlier, it's like, I'm really grateful for that, because even though everyone's not an addict, maybe everyone's not burning their life down, I feel like a lot of people really aren't actually happy with what they have,
Yeah.
and aren't really enjoying the moment, and are always worried about the next thing. And it's like, bro, you got a house.
Yeah.
You got a
This
partner.
town is the absolute worst place for what we're talking about right now.
Self-esteem, yeah, and just-
That and like it's all what's next.
What's next? What's
all
next?
of
What's
it.
next?
It like that is so prevalent here, and it's so toxic.
Dude,
like,
I had a moment that really kind of like affected me with playing a band that I lead back home, where like we played on the Orpheum Theater stage. It was a fundraiser, and the Orpheum in Memphis is like, you know, it's a historic, really cool venue.
Yeah.
We finished the gig, we got good reviews, and we're standing outside, me and 2 bandmates, and one of the bandmates says like, yeah, man, we're really on the up and up. Like, we got to just keep grinding and see what's next. And as him being just in the band, I get that. But as someone who is like the primary driver of this, I'm like, bro, we're not even an hour past playing on this major stage, and you're already talking about what's next. Like, I get the millionaire grind mentality, but I'm like, dude, I'm tired. Like this
Yeah,
it was hard to get here.
Yeah.
And we can't even just sit and
Enjoy
relish in
this.
this for a moment. Like we got to actually think about, like, come on, man. That really got me. But it was a good got me because I had to, you feel the internal like discomfort with hearing that. And then I went and journaled and I was like, oh. And that's what kind of pushed me to this new thing where I'm like, I'm going to follow the things I care about and I'm going to be passionate about it, but I'm not going to worry about the outcome so
I was
much.
about to say that is what that is. It's like it's the thinking about the end result versus just the doing and enjoying the doing.
Yeah.
It's like if you were too focused on acquiring a specific outcome, you are going to be disappointed literally no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Like no matter what the result is, it could be the optimal result and your mind will play some kind of trick on you to where it's not enough. Like it wasn't like every success that I've had is like one, it's never felt how you think it's going to feel. And it's super fleeting.
I thought it'd feel different.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
You think
And
it'd
it's
feel
like,
different.
okay, well then maybe this is not the right way to think about this then. And maybe it should actually be like just enjoying the doing. Because also if you enjoy the doing and you enjoy the process, that's inevitably going to take you to some kind of outcome.
Yeah.
And you can never predict what that outcome is going to be. So it's a pretty zero-sum game to play.
Trust the process, enjoy the process, and you'll find joy.
Yeah.
If you
literally.
trust it and enjoy it, you'll find joy.
Straight up.
Because you won't even care. I mean, like, yeah, it's the playing thing. And I think also the gamification, once again, likes, clout, number, and all that, it's messing with our brain.
Yeah.
I remember speaking of teaching, I taught a group of kids for a summer camp. And the teacher was like, can all the guest instructors play something for the kids? And dude, I played like this crazy like D minor pentatonic New Orleans kind of groove thing, and the kids clapped or whatever. And then this one girl raises her hand and she's just like, hey, like I just looked you up on like YouTube and your stuff doesn't have that many likes. And in my mind, I remember looking at this girl
Yikes.
and I kind of said it. It was a moment where my teacher mask went down. I looked at her and I just said, I literally just showed you in real life what I'm capable of doing. And I can tell, and I could see it, the other kids kind of like, oh, like they're like feeling bad for me because I didn't have a lot of followers or likes. And I'm just like, I just showed you what I can do. I just did the thing in front of you. But they cared more about.
Do my likes validate me more for you in your eyes than my
and I was not a
actual
healed person
presence?
then. I did
Yeah.
not take that little girl's comment. Well,
Yeah.
I was not a healed person then. So I was like, if I
Listen
had
here,
about
you
it.
little cunt.
Yeah, straight up. But it goes back to that. Not interested in the reality, interested in the myth, interested in
the story.
the story, and like this like thing. Likes aren't real. That's not a
real.
thing. That is a
It's not tangible.
no. That is a fallacy.
Yeah.
And what is real is what happens in life like that. But it's like that's so oftentimes not the interest, which is it's wild.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They want to see how many likes you got, how
Yeah.
many followers you got. And
the story.
if it's another artist, they want to see how being connected to you
Yeah.
can help them
Yes.
get forward.
Every
Yes.
time.
I
Every
have,
time.
sometimes I'll cut myself off from an opportunity these days. If I can feel that the internal motivation for doing something is because I think it'll get me something else, I have to stop and say like, hey, wait, should I really be doing this? Because that's Sith behavior.
Yeah.
That's dark side
Yeah,
behavior.
totally.
Like using other people as a stepping stone. If I feel that come out of me, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't pursue this opportunity. Because do I even want this? What am I doing? And I think that Elon and them, they want to be liked so bad because I couldn't imagine having $400 billion and still feeling the need to get more. I
Yeah.
just couldn't imagine.
How sad is that? $1 billion in itself is like you could never,
Incomprehensible
You
amount
could
of money.
never,
Yeah.
you could never spend that. Like
No.
and to, yeah,
You would
makes me
have to
sad.
try.
It makes me sad for them.
yeah. And what's hilarious is Donald Trump has never been a person that's been around poor people, you know, and all of the poorest and most redneck people love him, and that has
It's the
to just-
self-loathing.
Yeah.
It's the self-hate
And
human.
those people are happy. Like I remember I played a Kentucky Moonshine Festival one time, and it was so nice just sitting on the back patio,
Yep.
drinking moonshine with these super redneck people. They seem so happy.
Yeah.
So happy. They ain't got no health care. They ain't got no
Yeah.
teeth. Like,
Yeah.
they cousin just died from a fentanyl overdose or
Yeah.
whatever, and still they find joy.
Yeah.
The Palestinian people, still they find joy. People who were in these concentration camps, what's his name? Viktor Frankl. He wrote that book, and while he's in Auschwitz, still he found joy. It turns out Biggie Smalls was right. More money, more problems. And when you could, because I feel like when you are poor or when you just aren't crazy rich, you have to find happiness in the mundane.
Yeah.
You know, you have to find happiness on the drive to work. You know, just waking up. Like I used to think it was such a cliche when people be like, "Hey, how you doing today?" I woke up, and you're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
"Okay, I get it." But now I'm like, "Oh no, I get that."
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
it is. I'm actually just really grateful that we're just sitting in this room right now chatting
Yeah.
with homies. Like,
Yeah.
how many people don't have connections from years ago? There's so much to be grateful for, and it doesn't mean don't try. Just stop trying to force shit. I think too
Yeah,
many people
yeah.
are trying to force happiness, and you're not going to get it that way.
Yeah.
It's going to drive you further away from what you want.
Ooh, my light is green, by the way. Is yours?
It is as of recent.
Yeah, mine's
Okay.
green
It
as
might
well.
have filled up or something.
Okay, we're filled.
Yeah.
Lit.
We might be at the end of the.
Well, we have the audio, so
We got the
wrap
audio.
it up.
Yeah.
Audio.
Yeah.
Victor, this is arguably our
Nice.
best episode yet.
Dude, I'm just
Philosophical.
I just love y'all. Like, I mean, I really
Yeah,
was
love
thinking
you, bro.
about that people because sorry, LA. I was like, I'm not going to LA because I like LA.
Yeah.
I'm literally just going to see y'all. So just like, I'm just so grateful that we've all stayed connected and like takes effort. If you're young,
Yeah.
friendship takes effort.
Yeah.
Send the text. If you think about them, send the text.
Anything
Hit them up.
good takes effort.
Give them a call because wow, we really, and like we somehow all kept doing the thing we care about.
Yeah.
It's
yesterday
biggest
after
blessing.
after we jammed, you said, and I thought it was funny. I told Vanessa, Tim's looking down on us. Be like, those fucking kids did it.
Yeah.
You know he is smoking a
yeah.
cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Shout
doing
out
it.
Tim.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks
Well,
for
cool.
doing it, Victor.
Yeah,
Man,
bro,
thank y'all.
for sure.
Let's go get some food.
Let's
Yeah.
eat.
Ben and Brent Show. Peace.
Out.
Out.
Stuff you know and stuff you don't. It's the Ben and Bren Show.